You ever feel like life's just one long test, waiting to see if you'll break? That's how it was for Caleb Thornton, standing on the porch of his Wyoming cabin, watching another mail-order bride hightail it back to civilization in a rickety wagon, dust kicking up behind her like she couldn't get away fast enough. 5 women, 5 failures, each one took a look at his rugged, windswept homestead in the shadow of the Tetons, spent a few days shivering through the cold, and bolted, leaving Caleb with nothing but his stubborn pride and a gnawing ache for something more than solitude. At 34, Caleb had carved out a life trapping furs and cutting timber, a man hardened by years alone, his hands calloused, his heart heavier than the logs he hauled. The loneliness was starting to creep in, though not the kind you notice at first, but the kind that settles in your bones, makes you question if you're even real anymore. He'd tried the marriage broker in Cheyenne, a slick-talking fella named Amos who swore he could find a woman tough enough for the frontier. But every bride so far had been a city girl dreaming of some romantic pioneer fantasy, only to find Caleb's life and Caleb himself too rough, too raw, too real. As the latest wagon vanished down the trail, Caleb shut the door, leaned against it, and muttered to himself, "Maybe I'm just meant to be alone." But Amos had one more card to play, a woman named Esther Delgado, a 30-year-old seamstress from a Boston textile mill, no stranger to hard work or hard times. She wasn't like the others, Amos said, tossing in that she was sturdy-built, like it was a selling point for mountain life. Caleb didn't care about looks. He just wanted someone who'd stay. Winter was closing in, the snow already piling up, and the last letter said Esther was due on the next supply wagon if the passes didn't freeze over first. Caleb spent weeks prepping the cabin, stacking firewood, stocking provisions, but deep down, he braced for another letdown. The mountains didn't care about your hopes. They'd chew them up and spit them out, same as they did to anyone who wasn't ready. When the wagon finally rolled in, creaking through knee-deep snow, Caleb spotted her bundled up so tight he could barely make her out. But there was something about the way she sat, straight-backed, unfazed by the bone-chilling cold. Esther climbed down with a quiet dignity, her dark eyes scanning the jagged peaks, the weathered cabin, and Caleb himself, not with fear or judgment, but like she was sizing up a challenge. "Mr. Thornton," she said, her voice carrying a faint accent, warm but steady. "I'm Esther. I'm here as promised." Caleb, caught off guard by her calm, just nodded, suddenly aware of his scruffy beard and work-stained coat. "Welcome to the high country, ma'am. Hope the ride wasn't too rough." Esther's lips twitched, almost a smile. "I've seen worse." Old Jack, the wagon driver who'd been hauling supplies for decades, cut in with a gravelly chuckle. "Caleb, this one's got grit, had to make it up here in this weather. You don't scare her off, I'll be shocked." He tipped his hat to Esther, muttering about the storm rolling in, and was gone, leaving them standing in the swirling snow. Inside the cabin, Esther took it all in: the sturdy log walls Caleb had built himself, the stone hearth, the sparse but functional setup. "You made this?" she asked, running a hand over the smooth dining table. "Took me 4 summers, Caleb replied, a flicker of pride breaking through his usual gruffness. "It's good work," she said, and something in her tone, steady, genuine, made Caleb think maybe, just maybe, she was different. That first week, Esther didn't flinch at the cold or the isolation. She'd grown up in poverty, supporting her siblings after a factory fire took her parents, so the mountain's demands didn't faze her. She mended Caleb's torn shirts with neat stitches, reorganized his pantry like a general planning a siege, and cooked hearty meals that warmed the cabin in ways he hadn't thought possible. One night, over venison stew, she looked at him across the firelight and asked, "How many before me, Caleb?" He froze, spoon halfway to his mouth. 5, he admitted, voice low. "None of 'em lasted a week. Too cold, too lonely, or maybe I'm just too much of a mess." Esther's eyes didn't waver. They wanted a fairy tale. "I didn't come for that. I came for something real." Then came the blizzard, a monster that roared down the peaks, trapping them for days. The wind howled like it wanted to tear the cabin apart, and Caleb found a weak spot in the north wall, snow seeping through. Esther didn't panic. She grabbed old cloth, worked alongside him to seal the gap, her hands steady despite the freezing air. "Two's better than one for this kind of thing," she said, and Caleb felt a warmth that had nothing to do with the fire. Over those stormbound days, they really talked about their pasts, their fears, what they wanted from life. "I want a partner, Esther," Caleb confessed one night, the words spilling out. "Not just someone to cook or clean, but someone to build something with." She nodded, her gaze soft but sure. "That's what I want too, Caleb. Something that lasts." By spring, they weren't just surviving together, they were thriving. Esther's garden bloomed, her practical ideas making the cabin a home. Caleb taught her to read the weather, to shoot a rifle, to navigate the wild. When she told him she was pregnant, standing in the sunlight with the mountains glowing behind her, Caleb felt his world shift. "A family," he whispered, almost afraid to believe it. "We're building a real family." Esther smiled, her hand on her belly. "We already are." When Jack's wagon rolled in that summer, he grinned at the sight of them, side by side, Esther's pregnancy just showing. "Well, damn, Thornton, you found the one who could handle you and this mountain." Caleb laughed, his arm around Esther. "She's not going anywhere, Jack. We're in this for good." Later, as they read a letter from Amos offering more brides, Esther chuckled. "Write him back, Caleb. Tell him the right partner isn't the one who looks good on paper, it's the one who shows up and stays." That night, on their porch, the stars blazing above the Tetons, Caleb looked at Esther and felt a peace he'd never known. "You ever regret coming here?" he asked. She leaned against him, her warmth grounding him. "Not for a second. This is home." Their story wasn't a fairy tale, it was better, built on sweat, trust, and a love that grew from shared purpose. But what do you think, can a marriage like that, forged in hardship, outlast the ones built on romance? Drop a comment. Tell me your take. Have you ever found something real when you least expected it?